Hi all and welcome back to West Isola. This is going to be the first video in a sort of mini series of the very first full operating session that I'm going to be running on my railroad. With the last bit of track laid, it now means I can do that. So this is going to be a bit of a warts and all uh, series because it's as I'm learning as I go along. Um, One thing I'd like to ask anybody who's watching, please put any comments you have about the way I operate, things I'm doing wrong, things that look bad, etc., etc. Um, I've never been to America. I've never seen an American railroad. I've never operated on anybody else's railroad. So this is me doing it for the first time, um, and basically having learned everything off of YouTube. So anything that goes wrong will be as it happens. Please let me know, as I say, if there is anything that you think should be done differently. I'd be really, really grateful. This is going to be part one. Part one is going to be how I set up the railroad ready for operations. So without further ado, let's go on.
So we have the overall plan of West Isola. What we do is we work from east to west, looking at the various industries and the spots so that we can orientate ourselves for what we're doing as we do the operations. Coming in from the east is the main line that comes from the main yard at Isola. That's obviously a much, much bigger yard and is West Isola's connection to the rest of the US. At the top there, we've got Isola Metal Recycling, which has two spots, mainly for gondolas, which will come in empty and leave loaded. At the bottom, we've got two spots for LPG tank cars at Victory Propane. They will come in full and leave empty. Then at the top, we've got Protect Plastics. That has two boxcars spots and two hopper spots for bringing in plastic pellets. So the hoppers will come in full and leave empty. The boxcars can do either. They can come in full, leave empty, or arrive empty and leave full, depending on what we're doing. In operation terms, it doesn't really make a lot of difference to us here at the moment. In the middle, we've got two classification tracks there. The yardmaster at the Isola main yard doesn't really care much about what we do down here. All he wants to do is get the cars as fast as possible out of his yard to somewhere else. So they will end up at West Isola in any order. So the idea is the classification tracks can be used to sort them out for the various industries on there to make the actual switching a lot easier for the crews. We also have at there we've got a passing siding that allows us to do run rounds so we can serve both the east and west facing spurs. Moving further down, we've got a team track with two spots on it. As I mentioned in the previous video, the distance between the switch that's over here and the two spots on the team track is designed to allow us to switch the propane tracks without any problem. So we don't have to move stuff off the team track to be able to access the propane tracks there. At the top, we've got R2R Transload, that's Road to Rail Transload Company, which has got two spots by its warehouse that it has up there. Then we've got Mudco Concrete. They've got two spots for bringing in aggregate and three spots for bringing in cement cars. Then we have Suburban Steel, which has got two spots in the warehouse and two spots in the yard. We'll be having lots of steel movements in there, things with flat cars or coil cars, etc., coming in there. And then one of the plans is that I've got a stretch around the corner where it's going to be the main street and there will be street running. Um, then we have 17th Street Junction. As I said earlier, if there's any names or anything here that sound weird or not in line with what would happen in America, I'd be quite happy for somebody to put comments in and let me know. 17th Street Junction, the track that diverges off there in the model is actually part of the continuous run that allows me to have a continuous run around the layout if I want to. But under normal circumstances, it's operated as an end-to-end. One of the bits that about the main street street running and what happens at the next industry, McBain Foods, which is probably the biggest industry in terms of cars on the layout, is the fact that the train bringing the cars for McBain Foods has to be shoved the entire way from West Isola, including through the street running parts, because as you can see, uh, all the spurs at McBain Foods face the same way, and there is no way of having a run round at this point. One of the reasons I planned this was, again, I like the idea of being able to use a caboose on the layout, but in modern era, obviously, we don't. They're not used normally. So this gives me an excuse because under my rules, because it's such a long run from West Isola to McBain Foods, and because it includes street running, there must be a shoving platform at the front of the train as is being shoved through down to McBain Foods. So that's an overview then of what the layout's like and what the industries are on it. So what we'll do next is we'll have a look at the way I'm going to do the actual operations on it. Okay, what we're looking at here is how I'm going to actually operate my railroad. How am I going to decide what traffic is going to run in this particular session? So I got this idea from a YouTube channel called Metlin Ford's Railroad. A guy called Matt there has come up with this thing, and it's called OpsBuddy. I'll give a link into to his YouTube channel below. It's also similar to another guy called Martin, who's got a YouTube channel called Mog, and I'll link to that as well, who uses a very similar system on his 2-switch layout. So the idea is what we're doing is we're using dice rolls to decide what actually happens during a particular session. So what I've got here on the right hand side is an electronic random number generator. So it will generate a number between 1 and 20 each time I click on it. So that's how we decide the roles. What we've got over here are all the industries and all the that are on my layout. So there's metal recycling, Protect plastic, etc., etc. Every industry and that's on there. So what we basically do is we look at an industry. So this one is probably the most complicated. This is McBain Foods, which has the most industries on it, and we basically roll a dice to see what happens. So in this industry, for example, will it receive a reefer? How many tank cars will it get? 0, 1 or 2. How many hoppers will it get? 0, 1 or 2. How many box cars will it get? 0, 1, 2 or 3. So we roll to see what actually happens for that particular industry. Some of them, simpler one, like for example, Isola metal recycling, we roll to see whether or not it's going to get something or not, and then we roll to see whether it gets 1 or 2 of them. And the same of that. So that's the basic idea. Now, the big advantage with this is you can adjust the odds. For example, with Isola metal recycling, there's actually a 50-50 chance that it will not receive anything. So 1 to 13 will say it doesn't receive something, 14 to 20 it does. But I could actually do that. If we look at Protest Plastics, because I think Protect Plastics is a busier industry, if it roll 1 to 7, then it won't receive it. But if it rolls anything between 8 and 20, then it will get it. So there's a much better chance of Protect Plastics getting something done than there is for the metal recycling. So we just run through a couple of them. I'm not going to bore you rolling them all. So we do a roll for Isola metal recycling, and it's 11. So that says, no, the industry will not receive cards. So we just click in there, and I'll put an X to say it didn't. roll again, 15. This time it's for Protect Plastics. This one will receive traffic this so now we're going to roll to see what it receives. So you see there's a 1 in 20 chance that it'll only get one hopper, 1 in 20 chance that it'll get one boxcar, and so on and so forth on there. So we just roll again. This time it's 12, and if we go down 11 to 14, it says it's going to get one boxcar and 2 hoppers. So basically what we do is we work our way through all of these different industries, rolling to see what happens. So now we've finished rolling for all the industries on the layout. And if we just whiz over quickly, so we've got Isola Metal Recycling will not be worked this session. Protect Plastics will, and it will receive one boxcar and 2 hoppers. The Transload won't get any traffic. Suburban Steel will, and it will get 3 cars. So the first roll was for 3 cars. We then had to roll again to see what cars those 3 cars would be. So what we can see, we're going to get 1 coil car and 2 gondolas on there. Victoria Propane won't be worked. The Team Track won't be worked. McBain's Foods, no reefer, 1 tank car, 1 hopper and 1 box car. And Mudco Cement will have 3 hoppers of cement and 1 aggregate hopper arriving. So that's all the traffic that we've got coming into our layout. If we now move on to the next sheet of OpsBuddy, what we're looking at here is what we're actually going to be doing. On the left hand side here, we've got all the cars that at the moment that are in staging. So all of these are sat in staging somewhere. In fact, they're actually in storage boxes on my layout, storage drawers. So what we now do is we work backwards and forwards between what we saw there. So for example, we know that Isola Metal Recycling isn't going to have any traffic at all from our roll table. If we go back and look at Protect Plastics, that says it's going to receive 1 boxcar and 2 hoppers. So if we go down to here and we look at Protect Plastics, we've got our slots for boxcars, our spots for the boxcars, and our spots for the hopper. So now all we do is we go over to here, click on 1 in staging, cut it out to say it's not going to be there, put it into Protect Plastics and paste it in there. So we now know that that car has got to be set out at Protect Plastics, and we've also got 2 hoppers. So we just scroll down. So what we're going to do is take that one and cut those and fine. And paste them in there. So now we know that at Protect Plastics, we've got our boxcar, and it's going to be that boxcar, and we've got 2 hoppers, and they're going to be those 2 hoppers. Now, notice there's nothing in the pickup. Because this is the first session that I've ever done, there will be nothing in pickup. However, what I'm going to do is later on I will randomly put things in there just to give something to pick up in these various spots. Normally, however, what would happen is at the end session, once a box has been set out, or once a car has been set out rather, it would be moved to the pickup point for the next session. What I hope to do in the future is, rather than to do in effect a 1-for-1 pickup and set out and pick up, I hope to sort of introduce things like off spots and so on and so forth. But if this is my first session, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick to something simple. So it'll basically be, if there's something already sat on the spur, it will be picked up and taken away, and then the setting out will be done. So that's Protect Plastics done. We go back to our roll table again and we look at the transload. The transload, nothing for this one. Suburban Steel, we've got that. So we've got 1 coil car and 2 gondolas is what we're going to do there. So go back to our So all I'm going to do now, before I do that, is I'm actually going to just go through and put some cars in the pickups so that they will be picked up this time, and I'll just do that at random in each of the ones that are going to be worked. What I'm also going to do is this area here where it says 10th Street Yard, which is the classification tracks, the two classification tracks. What I'm going to put in there is some pickups in there. They're the ones that would have been worked yesterday, and they've been put in the yard ready to go back to Isola's main yard with the transfer run that's going to be the first part of the session. So now that I've set everything up, we've got all the various set outs and pickups. Also, this is what was left in 10th Street Yard overnight, ready for pickup this morning. What we can do now is we select everything that's in that box there and copy it. And then we go to the Ready to Print tab and click there and paste everything in there. Now we can print that out on ready for our working, so we can tick it off, or we could just do it online and on the computer, depending on how you wanted to do it. Just a couple of things at the bottom. There are instructions. What we do at 10th Street: set out cars destined for the main yard, Isola. I've put it in New York because I don't really know where this actually is, but New York will do. And tie down power on the team track lead. That's where you put it at the end of the day, ready for the next session. So that is there, and I think that's probably taken me all together with the bits I've edited out. But for the first time, I think that probably took me 20 minutes from beginning to end to actually set this out. And I'm sure that as I go on, it will get a lot faster. So the next thing we'll look at is actually setting up the transfer run from West Isola. From Isola to West Isola, ready to start the actual session on the layout.
I've now set up all the industries with the cars on them, as we randomly decided using the OpsBuddy on there. So that's McBain with the cars on there. And then over here, we've got the plastic industry with the two box cars and that, etc. The cars in the foreground are the ones that are the outgoing cars from what would have been yesterday's session if this wasn't the very first session I'm running. In the background, you can see the transfer run, which will be coming in from West Isola at the beginning of the session. So I've set it up on here, and I'm about to run it round into the staging yard, ready for the start of the next session. As I said, I was going to do this all warts and all. One of the things I found using the OpsBuddy, the way I had done, is the incoming train will actually be too long for the passing siding. So I thought, rather than mess it about or anything, I'd do that and just see how I'm going to solve the problem when we actually start the op session. So I'm just assuming in this case, the main Isola yardmaster has just wanted to get rid of as many as he can. So the next thing we will do is we're going to set the train off, ready to go into the staging yard. So you've seen how I've set up the railroad. You can see some of the mistakes, for example, of the train looks like it's going to be too long, but we'll see what happens in the next session. Again, any comments, please let me know. And in the next video, we'll be seeing the actual start of the session. All in all, I think it took me about 30 to 35 minutes to set up the railroad, but some of that was obviously a bit of a learning curve, and also I had to put all the cars that were that should have been there, if you like, from the last operating session. I had to put them out. So I reckon that gradually I'll probably get it down to about 15 minutes actually doing the setting up from scratch. So let's get on with the operating session. See you in the next video.